Assalamualaikum and hi. Firstly, I will explain a little bit about what autism is. Autism spectrum disorder (ASD) is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects people's social interaction, communication, learning, and behavior. ASD is known as a developmental disorder because the symptoms of the disease usually appear as early as the first 2 years old, although ASD can be diagnosed at any age. There are many types of symptoms and severity of autism. That's why it is described as a spectrum disorder. The symptom of ASD can be diagnosed in social interaction and behavior. For example, in their social communication, they are being slow in responding or their eye contact inconsistent. In their behavior, they often repeat certain routine. They also become sensitive or upset if there are any changes in their routine. As I mentioned before, autism has many types of symptoms and severity. There are two main types of autism, which are autistic disorder and Asperger's syndrome. The autistic disorder is categorized as a severe type of autism because the symptoms are more serious. Most children who are diagnosed with autistic disorder at the age of 2 to 4 years old, they will have difficulties in communicating, such as they cannot understand well what someone is saying to them, or they are unable to pick up the expressions shown by other people. Moreover, the autistic person usually had an intellectual delay. For example, they could not recognize and respond appropriately to the feeling of other people. Meanwhile, someone who is diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome may not receive the diagnosis in the early years. It is because many parents may not realize the developmental delay in their children until they become teenagers or adults. Children who are diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome mostly have good communication skills, but they usually have difficulties in adapting themselves with their friends because they may feel awkward and uncomfortable. In their cognitive development aspect, usually children with Asperger's syndrome do not have a significant cognitive delay as the children with autistic. Most of them have average intelligence level. Plus, they are usually have repetitive behavior or they are obsessed with certain things such as video games, animals, and music.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Aiman bin Ayob and I would like to talk about a person named Satoshi Tajiri. Satoshi Tajiri is a famous game developer. When he was little, he liked to catch insects and play video games.
He would find new ways to study and catch a variety of these insects, eventually building a collection of his own. Because of this, his peers bestowed him the nickname Dr. Bug.
He don't like to go to school. He was so obsessed with video games, he always skipped school and go to an arcade. Until the arcade manager gifted him his own game system, his own arcade game. When he brought home, his parents were so upset with him, got angry with him, because his parents want him to be educated. Instead, he always skipped school.
Tajiri actually disliked going to school and would have much preferred to skip classes to spend more time in the arcades playing video games. In fact, he would play in them so much that one of the arcades actually gave Satoshi a full-size Space Invaders machine for him to take home.
So his parents think that he became a delinquent. When he was 17, he also made his own magazine called Game Freak with his friends. So, for him to please his parents from skipping school, he got into a college.
Of course, Satoshi did eventually get his high school diploma, and afterwards went to Tokyo National College of Technology for 2 years, studying computer science and electronics.
He also got help from a friend called Ken Sugimori that helped him develop his own game company called Game Freak, that is from his own magazine. While he was pitching an idea about Pokémon, people doesn't like it at first. until a person named Shigeru Miyamoto helped him about establishing his own game called Pokémon, and it was famous until today. The next person that I would like to talk about is Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the CEO of SpaceX and Tesla. He likes playing games too, and he have a really abusive father.
Turns out that Elon's father and May's husband, Elon Musk, was incredibly abusive and somewhat of a garbage individual behind the scenes.
When I was married, I was told about 3 times a day that I'm boring and stupid and, and ugly.
Not only was Errol abusive, he also denied Elon some of the most basic things required to begin a career in business, such as a computer.
He didn't want to buy a computer and refused to use computers and said they would never amount to anything.
Showing that perhaps Errol wasn't all that interested in seeing his kids become their best selves.
He likes programming, so the way he got some money to get his own computer and stuff is by program games and sell them.
After making this discovery, Elon decided to create his first piece of gaming software called Blaster, a game somewhat similar to the popular game Space Invaders. This game was then sold to the magazine for a price of $500.
Due to his genius, he also got into school early. He have an ability to easily adapt to any situation due to his past having an abusive father. He also have a supportive mother that sees potential in him. When he wanted to start his own company, his brother Kimball helped him develop his first company in Silicon Valley.
Stephen Wiltshire is one of the most well-known autistic person in the world. People know him as a talented person in drawing. It is because he loves to draw building and skyscraper. The more interesting fact about him, he can sketch a building even if he just take a short time to observe it. That's why Stephen Wiltshire is also known as the human camera. But who knows, before he became a successful artist, he faced many challenges as an autistic person.
I'm in the mid-70s. We didn't understand what autism was.
Children with autism, as far as we understand it, cannot communicate as well as other children simply because there's a difference in wiring in the brain, and they just don't have the facility that others have to learn language, pick up on language, right from the beginning.
From that video, we could see how difficult his life was since childhood. As an autistic person, Stephen had shown many symptoms such as cannot communicating well. According to his teacher, Stephen usually does not interact with other students, and he felt uncomfortable and not confident when talking because he had limited vocabulary. Plus, Stephen was an anxious child. Stephen's teacher said he always need to be calmed down because he always screamed and cried a lot at school. The challenge that Stephen's family faced is they know nothing about autism, so they took an initiative to register him in a special school. Although there are many challenges faced by Stephen, they managed to encounter all of them because of the support from people around him. The main support are from Stephen's family and teachers. We could see that his family realized that they do not know how to treat properly an autistic child, so they sent Stephen to the Queen's Mill School, a special school that offered education to special children like Stephen. At school, his teachers said Stephen always screamed and cried, so they tried to calm him by giving him a paper. Then, Stephen started to calm himself by sketching on the paper. From that, they recognized his talent in drawing. Furthermore, Stephen was also helped by experts such as a psychologist to explain his rare condition. For example, Professor Linda Pring from the University of London and Professor Simon Baron Cohen, director of the Autism Research Council at that time. Plus, as Stephen grew up with his career, he learns to play a musical instrument, which is the piano. Stephen said by learning piano, he can increase his confidence level.
Let's talk about the similarities and differences that they have. The first similarities that they have is that they have repetitive speech, which they will repeat the same thing over and over again. Doesn't matter is it a word or is it a full sentence. Next is that they like to do repetitive activities, like for example programming, and also buying coffee at the same place over and over again. Next is they are really obsessive. Even he is obsessive with buildings. For example, Mr. Tajiri, he is obsessed with insects and the such. Next is that they are high functioning autism. They have really great talents within them. They have the abilities to survive and thrive in this world today using the talent that they have. The differences that they have is that Elon have an abusive father. Stephen, meanwhile, have proper support due to his parents understanding him that he have autism. He also have the worst communication problem from all three of them. Elon is mentally tough from his abusive father, while the others have a more supportive parents than Elon, except for his mother. Satoshi, on the other hand, is more social. He have friends. For example, he and his friends make his own magazine, Game Freak, that in turn will turn into his own company.
Based on these three documentaries, there are several theories and concepts that can be related to these special people. Firstly, the assimilation and accommodation in Piaget theory. Assimilation is the concept of incorporation of new information into existing knowledge. Meanwhile, accommodation is adjusting the schemas to fit new information. The concept of assimilation can be related to Elon Musk and Stephen Wiltshire. At a young age, Elon was a boy who liked computer and loved computer games. From his hobby, he was also interested to learn about computer programming. Same as Elon, Stephen at first just a child who loved to sketch on paper. Then, after he showed interest in the building and landscape, he always drew the building and landscape until he became proficient. This shows that Elon assimilated new knowledge in the computer programming into his existing computer skill, while Stephen assimilated new information, which is the building element, into his existing drawing skill. The accommodation concept could be related to Satoshi Tajiri. Satoshi was a boy who loved to play video games. Then, during his teenage years, he started a small magazine for gamers called Game Freak with his friend. We could see Satoshi adjusting his knowledge about games in the magazine. Next, we could relate their life to Bronfenbrenner ecological theory. The environmental system that will be highlighted is the microsystem. Microsystem is a setting in which the individual spends time and has direct interaction with family, teachers, peers, and others. According to this theory, the social context of children's life give an important influence on their development. We will discuss the social context of family, which is parenting style. There are 4 types of parenting style, which are authoritarian, authoritative, neglectful, and indulgent. We are more likely to categorize their parents in the authoritative parents based on the following reason. Firstly, Elon Musk. His parents were divorced, but his mother took care of Elon and his siblings very well. His mother provided proper education and support his interest in computers. Secondly, Satoshi Tajiri. Even though Satoshi's parents quite strict in academics, but they still allow Satoshi to involve in his interest. For example, he can further study in computer science and get along with his fellow gamers. Thirdly, Stephen Wiltshire. His parents also authoritative because they encourage Stephen to become independent and they allow him to do what he wanted to do. For example, Stephen allowed to travel to fulfill his interest in drawing buildings around the world.
So in conclusion, these 3 people are actually really talented. Even though they have autism, autism doesn't stop a person, a child, from become really successful in the future. It's all up to the teachers and how do we upbring them from their early stages and help them, support them. Doesn't matter is it the teacher, the school, or the parents on helping them to become successful in the future.